Smasho here, coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name of news with the daily space weather. We'll be bringing you the most detailed imagery you'll find of the sun anywhere, as well as the most comprehensive space weather. Let's get to it. We had an M-class flare. We'll tell you where it came from here in just a moment. So we're going to go around the horn, starting with these active regions that are setting in the northwest. The likelihood of those producing a major flare is very high. We've got a couple more days of that high likelihood. We also do have a new interesting equatorial sunspot. This one right up here, a sunspot very close to the equator, occurring nowhere near solar minimum, and long before solar maximum as well. Kind of an odd place for a sunspot. It's a feature we've seen throughout this solar cycle. We've seen sunspots at very high latitudes and very low latitudes, sort of in an unexpected time. Also a huge filament hanging out down here, a prominence setting down there in the southwest. Here's what's up with the southeast. New sunspot having risen over there. And that M-class flare indeed did come from the northeast. From a region not yet risen. So likely another sunspot there going to rise within the next, say, 24 hours, maybe even the next 12 hours or so. It looks like it's pretty close to coming into view there. Another active region showing up. By the way, if you enjoy the content, press like, subscribe, share, etc. And if you don't trust certain big tech organizations to provide you with the subscription feed that you would like, then save our Smash Team website to your desktop. We'll cast some light onto facts. And, if you save the website onto your desktop, it'll act just like an app. So just click on Posts. That'll show you our latest posts. We put our daily space weather videos and meteorology segments right on there. So do yourself a favor and make sure you see all of the content. Smashamash.com/SmashTeam if you'd like to support the channel by sending us a few bucks per month. Consider becoming a member at the silver or gold level. There's also a bronze level. We do send out email alerts for disasters also, so do yourself a favor, do us a favor, and do Smash staff a favor by perhaps giving her a raise. Also do yourself a favor by clicking on the SureMed link if you'd like your insurance options looked into. I can do that for you if you have Medicare. Drop me a line. Otherwise, also, we do have other types of insurance at our agency. So drop us a line there. SureMed memberships are not insurance. They are association memberships. They will afford you all sorts of discounts and other benefits like doctors by phone, counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians, etc. So do yourself a favor by becoming a member of SureMed. I'll be your agent of record if you sign up via my link. You'll find it below the video and on the homepage. Also, you can email or drop me a line via a phone call if you'd like your insurance options looked into. I am a licensed Medicare insurance agent in 28 states. So let's take a look at volcanoes here. We've got some imagery there of the Sierra del Fuoco lava flow there from Stromboli. So there's that active flow we've mentioned a few times on the videos. Stromboli continuing to erupt there in a typical spattering fashion. Shiveluch also erupting, producing a 13,000-foot ash plume over Kamchatka. Suwanosejima producing a 6,000-foot ash plume over the Ryukyu Islands. Semaru exploding flight level 140. Yasur on the Isle of Tana for Vanuatu is now exploding as well. Looks like about a 2,000-foot plume of volcanic ash there from Yasur. Samisa Pochnoi in the Aleutian Islands has raised the alert to level orange there. The Alaska Volcano Observatory raised the alert level, that is. Mount Cerberus showing some ash deposits. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level, oh, by the way, that's a 10,000-foot ash plume over Mount Cerberus. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 200, 20,000-foot ash plume, 15,000-foot ash plume over Fuego in Guatemala. Moving down to South America, Nevado de Ruiz exploding, flight level 210 over Colombia. Two active volcanoes in Ecuador, Sangay and Revenador. 21,000-foot ash plume from Sangay, 14,000-foot ash plume from Ravenador and Sabancaya also exploding. Flight level 250. It's a 25,000-foot ash plume over Peru. Please don't. Do not pole vault the caldera. Next, looking at the global seismicity scenario here. Here's the past 90 days in a convenient bar graph form, courtesy of volcanodiscovery.com. And let's check the list. It's been fairly calm here. Keep in mind, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock. No major quakes over the past 24 hours. Oh, actually, there was. There was a 6.0 at Vanuatu. So that is certainly the largest quake. That came in at 1634 yesterday afternoon. That's 1634 Universal Time. A 6.0 struck Vanuatu. Also, China had a 5.6. That China quake coming in at 1716 Universal Time yesterday. Peru had a 5.3. That came in at 2111. Again, I'd remind each of you that any earthquake can be a foreshock, and we'd prefer, of course, for you to be an asset, not a liability in the event of a disaster. There was also a 5.2 south of the Fiji Islands, and let's go back to space. These are the wavelengths we started the video out with. This is 304 angstroms and 131. So ionized iron in 131 angstroms, ionized helium in 304 angstroms from the SDO. These are wavelengths of the ultraviolet spectrum, and we have indeed seen an increase here in solar activity since yesterday. The radio flux now up to 160 solar flux units. So the 10.7 centimeter radio flux depicted right here in a 1-year chart. The black line is the radio flux, now way back up here to 160 solar flux units. We've only reached 180 at one point during this solar cycle, and it was back in May, mid-May of 2022. So now getting closer and closer to those highest levels we've seen throughout solar cycle 25 so far. We've got a long way to go to get to solar max. We also have seen the solar wind speed here decrease a little bit. We do have some geomagnetic unrest forecasted there by NOAA. That's expected to come in late in the day on the 30th. No arguments there. Those are from a coronal hole high-speed stream. It looks like NOAA only expecting a minor impact from that. And let's move on to the KP index. So global geomagnetism here, quite calm. KP index is below 2 at 1.67. And let's take a look at Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. So here's our geospace magnetosphere movie. We show it daily on the channel. The space weather modeling framework uses lots of different bits of data to obtain these models. Again, that's the last 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure out to about 12 Earth diameters. And here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. It's also the last 4 hours. It's also the space weather modeling framework. If you want to read more about that, head to either of the Geospace Magnetosphere movies or Ground Magnetic Perturbations pages. Click on details. You'll find a link to the space weather modeling framework. You can download all the software, and you can read all about how the models are derived. It's always interesting when we have periods of calm here, and we certainly have a calm geomagnetic period here at the moment, certainly for the last 4 hours. Continuing on to the real-time solar wind, again, we've seen a decrease here in the solar wind speeds, now to about 430 kilometers per second. Solar wind density just below 6 protons per cubic centimeter. Otherwise, fairly unremarkable for the past 24 hours. Let's move to magnetic data. There are your GOES magnetometers. A little bit higher lows there in the past day. And let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet next. Is there a South Pole current sheet rushing this way? Looks like we will have a South Pole current sheet for Earth in the next few hours. Keep in mind this data was over an hour old when we streamed the video. South Pole current sheet is depicted here in red. North Pole current sheet here rotating away from Earth to the west. We can expect that to arrive later today, just in a couple of hours. So here's our line of sight field plot. Solar polar fields depicted in red for south, green for north, and the solar B field depicted in blue. That's the field that goes through a magnet, if you're wondering, this magnet being the sun. And we're going to get to coronal holes next, but first, take a moment to visit our links. If you haven't checked out the links below the video, you can save 40% site-wide on the Hemp Lucid shop. So click the link for that. You can also use the promo code SMASHOMASH10 for some savings on checkout. Yeah, save 40% site-wide. You can shop by solution. There are solutions for sleep, for focus, for anti-inflammatory purposes. Even CBD available for your pets. Again, check it out in the description. You can also find links to the Hemp Lucid shop on the home page there at smashomash.com. So check that out. Press like, subscribe, share, etc. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. We don't believe the channel is recommended by YouTube. We believe it's shadow banned. Since shadow banning has now become a mainstream thing, Elon calls it deboosting. Because basically what each big tech company is saying is that our fascism is better than your fascism. That's why we limit the reach of certain content and promote other nonsense, disinformation, fraud, and propaganda. In any case, thanks for putting up with the pathetic censorship on YouTube. YouTube viewers, if you're viewing any place besides YouTube, make sure you go subscribe on YouTube. You're missing most of the content. You can find lots of other stuff besides space, weather, and meteorology videos in the playlists. Thanks again to our YouTube viewers. You can also find links to our merch shop on the homepage as well as below the video. If you do click that link, you'll find the products in order of best selling. So various different designs there with various different types of purposes. Some for fun, some for serious. And congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. You're doing a fine job. Today's featured product is being worn by me, and it is Mensa. Make Earth not suck again. It's up to you. And when we say it's up to you, we mean it's not up to giant bureaucracies that are unable to do their own job or get out of their own way. We mean it is up to you. Because you've got to do your part to make Earth not suck again. So this is kind of serious, actually. So, yeah. Make Earth not suck again. It's part of the reason why we'd like to make America not suck again. And if it's been sucking where you're located, let us know all about it in the comments. Thanks to everybody who's left comments throughout the past pushing 6 years of putting out the most detailed space weather videos in the world. Help support the channel with some merch. And you'll find our .org website, which will direct you to the .com, smashomash.org, smashomash.com. Have you read about our mission? smashomash.com/forum/mission. You can read all about that there if you like. There is a forum as well. There are email alerts on the smashomash.com/smash team website if you register for that. So lots of stuff outside our daily content for you to do on the internet, as we're involved in lots of things besides space weather and meteorology. So now we're moving to coronal holes, as it is time to see what evil lurks in the depths of coronal holes. And basically no evil lurks in the depths of them, but high-speed solar winds do. And as we forecasted yesterday, we're seeing some much better defined coronal holes here rotating in the west, and in the east, rather. So this is a South Pole-oriented coronal hole. That is south. These up here are north. And I suppose NOAA is forecasting a solar wind impact from this coronal hole up here. That's what the geomagnetic unrest is going to be tomorrow, I suppose. At least NOAA's forecast for it. We'll have to see what happens there, and let's move to sunspots. So we do have a new sunspot right here. This will be known as sunspot 3178, I believe. 3178, as this new sunspot has kind of spontaneously formed there very close to the equator. And let's take a look at sunspots. Again, we're seeing sunspots at various latitudes here. Usually sunspots start out at high latitudes at the beginning of a solar cycle, and then they move closer and closer to the equator at solar minimum. At the moment, we've been seeing sunspots at varying latitudes. It's one of the many interesting features of solar cycle 25. So here looking at sunspots, we've got 171 angstroms plus the SDO magnetogram there. To add a little bit of luster, there's the SDO continuum plus 171 angstroms. Again, new active region rising here in the northeast. It has already been producing flares. And let's zoom in a little bit. And let's subtract 171 angstroms. And next we'll take a look at relativistic particles and solar flares. Now, occasionally a solar flare is accompanied by the arrival of high-speed protons traveling at a significant percentage of light speed. Sometimes they show up in as little as 20 minutes, folks. So that's like 1/3 the speed of light. That's a pretty fast series of particles at the moment. We've got a flatlined ghost proton flux. No proton events here for a couple of months, actually. As far as the flaring goes, we did have a rather long duration M-class flare there. It was only an M1.21. Peak flux was early this morning at 7:20. And let's take a look at some wavelengths specifically for flares. And that M-class flare did come from this active rising region here. So we've got two likely spots to see major flares go moving forward. This group setting in the northwest and this group rising in the northeast. We'll also show you 131 angstroms, the other wavelength specifically designed for viewing solar flares. That is the last 24 hours from SDO. And this is the Smash News Network least busted name in news. Next thing we're looking at is a star chart. We're always interested in what's going on overhead, and it's a dark sky out there. We don't have any sun or moon or even any planets at the moment. That's what's going on over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The brightest intrinsic object visible from our solar system has risen. It's known as the star Deneb, which is actually a high-mass X-ray binary. Super interesting star indeed is Deneb. Again, it is the most intrinsically bright object visible from our solar system. It is a Wolf-Rayet blue supergiant star being orbited by a more compact object known as the, quote, little friend, aka Cygnus X3, a massive X-ray source traveling at a significant percentage of light speed, with one of its pole jets pointed directly at you. Deneb, if you don't know about it, go read about it on the forum at smashomash.com/forum. There's an entire forum thread in the cosmology segment. In the cosmology the cosmology forum, I guess is what it is. So go read about the other celestial pole star, Deneb. It is the celestial pole star at the other end of the precessional cycle. And let's do a solar system forecast here as Earth moves around to the lonely side of the sun there, the gas giant free side of the solar system. Here's your 1 week forecast. Keep in mind this imagery is not to scale. Here's where things will be in 1 week. That will be on January 5th. Continuing on here to look at some coronagraphs. We have had some coronal mass ejections. This is yesterday's 99 frames. And if you're wondering if those are earthly directed, we'll let you know here in just a moment. Here are today's 42 frames. We'll also look at the view from stereo A, which orbits this gravitational equilibrium point known as Lagrangian point 5. The Soho-Lascaux C3 locates this gravitational equilibrium point known as Lagrangian point 1. Soho-Lascaux C3 here on the right, stereo A here on the left, and we don't see any earthly directed coronal mass ejections. These CMEs were on the far side of the sun primarily. No new CMEs headed toward the Earth. There's a lot of empty space in between the Earth and Sun here at the moment. As you can see, at least 2 coronal holes facing Earth. So here is what's going on in the past 24 hours. Here's a slight zoom in. Again, none of those CME, they may look a little bit like halo CMEs. They are not directed toward the Earth. Those are on the far side of the sun. Those are opposite of what we would call earthly directed coronal mass ejections. Which brings us to filaments. We do have a huge filament here rising near the equator in the east. I think that one deserves a name. So what do you say? By the way, that's the ground-based solar observatory at Cerro Tololo, Chile. And we'll bring up the last image here, and then we will tweet. So if you haven't followed us on Twitter yet, if you don't have a Twitter account, get a Twitter account, because if you don't have one, you'll be unable to name that filament. So this filament right here rising on the equator, that needs a name. Let us know in the comments what you think it ought to be named, or better yet, join Twitter if you haven't. By the way, Elon Musk has not fixed censorship or free speech. He's publicly stated that the deboosting continues, otherwise known as shadow bans. Yeah, we've got 341 followers and over 18,000 tweets since 2019. Next, we're going to look at the last couple of hours here from the GOES 16 SUVI and its great wide field of view. There is a crown prominence happening up here and a rising prominence associated with that new filament. Most likely places for additional flares are indeed this setting region in the northwest and this rising region in the northeast. Here's the last 24 hours in SGO 171 angstroms before we move to our bonus features. Bonus feature segment starts out with satellite charging hazards. And at the moment, we ain't got none. We ain't got no satellite charging hazards. It's a clear sailing environment. We ain't got no charging hazards. There's your GOES electron flux for the past 3 days. And NOAA's forecast was right on for the last 24 hours here. Just toying with warning levels here is the GOES 16, the GOES 17 just below warning levels, and NOAA forecasting flat levels of electron flux. No argument there. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. Here is your 1-year graph of the electron flux from solon.info if you want to follow it yourself. We're just at moderate levels here, nothing to write home about. The GOES 16 and GOES 17 make their radiographic measurements from their geosynchronous orbits at about 22,000 miles of altitude. And they endeavor to make those measurements at the F layer of the ionosphere, located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. One slice of the atmosphere, and here it is, in vibrational frequency. This data courtesy of Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. And as we've been showing for over a week now, the South Atlantic anomaly has become the South Pacific anomaly. Make of that what you will, but those are the facts. A huge shift has occurred quite abruptly, where the South Atlantic anomaly has moved into the South Pacific. If you're not familiar with it, it'll be really obvious in the anomaly data. This is the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median, and you'll notice right around here, just south of the 30 south latitude line, you'll be able to see what the South Atlantic anomaly used to be. No longer over the South American continent. It is now somewhere in front of that arrow, having moved 1,500 miles in quite a short period of time. I won't harp on it. There's your latest image. That's 11:30 Universal Time ionogram and 11:30 Universal Time anomalygram. And right there you can see that striation. That is the South Atlantic anomaly. No longer over the South American continent, but instead over the South Pacific. Continuing on to total electron content, it shows you the most likely places for GPS errors and gives you insight into where the free electrons are located, up to about 12,500 miles of altitude. That's where your GPS satellite is. And here's your animation of that. And things are a little bit more organized here. We are still seeing some significant GPS errors over North America, but not what we saw last week. That is your total electron content forecast. It is the free electrons between the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt and your GPS handset at ground level. And of course, we'll show you the latest intensity gram. There's the refresh and the latest solar magnetogram. We do indeed see the magnetic fields rising in this new active region. At the moment, no new ombre. So we'll be watching for that to rise up throughout the day. Again, the most likely places for large flares would be the northwest, as there are several complex setting sunspot groups there. In the northeast, as there is certainly a flare-producing rising region over there. And it's time to move to meteorology. Let's take a moment to pause for station identification. This is the Smash News Network least busted name in news. And what we're showing here is relative humidity at ground level, as well as surface winds. So this is a great view here from nullschool.net's wind sky maps. We're showing the South American continent here. It shows great variation between the moister northern and most southern portions of Argentina and the very arid southern portion there. Also, you can see the Sahara very dry, and then some much moister regions there in southern Africa. Also showing you the Gobi Desert over there in Chad. Okay, Chad. And there's the driest and highest continent of them all. And we just like to show different features occasionally to mix things up as we kick off our meteorology segment. That is what's going on as far as relative humidity. Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. Jet streams to the east are looking like this. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. Here are the western world's jet streams. Here are the surface winds of the Americas. Here are the surface winds of the central world, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. And here are the jet streams. So there are your global weather patterns as far as jet streams and surface winds. Once again, if you enjoy the content, help us out by clicking our links. You can find them below the video, the link to smashomash.com, etc. You'll find us. We're still on Patreon as well. Credit Crawl coming back before the end of the year. So there's another incentive. If you'd like your name to appear in lights, we'll be putting people's names on the screen here to thank them for supporting the content. And thanks, everybody, for supporting the content, viewing the videos, etc. And welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Smashomash.com is the homepage. Again, help us out with clicks. Even if you're unable to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet, here's what's going on over the Americas in terms of clouds and fog. If you open your wallet and a moth flies out, you may be what we would call tight with money. So this is clouds and fog, 3.9 nanometer radiation satellite. And by the way, when we joke around about the Earth being croissant-shaped, the reason we do it is because, well, in some ways the Earth is croissant-shaped, because there is what Earth's magnetic moment from space looks like. And if you notice from the side view, it's a bit, yeah, you get the idea. To quote Seinfeld, it's funny because it's true. Croissant Earth. Okay, anyway. Continuing on to our weather.gov map, we'll scroll down briefly to show you the key so you know what those color alerts are, or perhaps visit weather.gov and click on your county. If your county is lit with a weather alert, get your weather alerts that way. We've got some avalanche alerts in Idaho, Montana, and portions of Utah. Weather.gov. is the site. And let's do some forecasts here. Here is your 72-hour GFS positive snow depth change forecast. And shout out to Diamond of Sloppenheimer Ranch Project. Hey, Diamond, you may not want to show 300-hour forecasts. Those are not accurate. Even a 4-day forecast is too inaccurate for us to show on the channel. So being skilled at the realm of meteorology, there's some advice for you, Diamond, a.k.a. David Moriello. Your 300-hour forecasts are not going to be accurate, as they never have been. We're unable to forecast the weather like 4 days in advance, so maybe don't forecast it 2 weeks in advance. Just saying. That's probably an accurate forecast there for snowfall for the next 3 days, based on the GFS model. Here is your total forecast here. It's showing precipitation and pressure. It's the same model, the GFS, over the same period of time, 72 hours, because that tends to be accurate. And look at the amount of precipitation that's going to happen in California. That is a berserk amount of precipitation there in the northern half of the state especially. Huge amounts of wet snow forecasted there based on the GFS 72-hour model. And let's show a temperature forecast as well, as we've got some much warmer temperatures. The 80s are coming back to Florida. So that's your 72-hour GFS temperature model. And let's move on here. We don't want the video to be too lengthy. We're going to show the European forecast here for snow. So let's zoom in one step. Actually, let's leave it there. That's fine. So there's the next 12 hours of snow forecast. Quite a bit of snow forecast for Colorado there. There is the next 24 hours. And there is the next 3 days based on the European model. And if you want to see how that differs from GFS, there's the GFS model. There's the European model. European model forecasting more snow for California here. And DAG, that is forecasting 58.6 inches of snow accumulation in the next 3 days for portions of east central California. That is quite a bit of snow there, and not that different from the GFS model. Next, looking at lightning. We did see some Central American lightning. This is the past about 10 hours. And let's see what's going on in real time. Do we have any strikes? Well, let's consult lightningmaps.org and see what's going on. We do see some Central Pacific Ocean lightning happening there. Things are pretty calm as far as lightning strikes go here. There is some lightning off the coast of Mexico, and also some near Cuba. Continuing on to our U.S. Doppler radar map, and thanks for leaving a comment, Bruce. So there is U.S. Doppler radar. You see that heavy moisture making its way from the Pacific into the Pacific Northwest. Quite a lot of moisture there. Here's your shortwave radiation map showing clouds and fog. Interesting low cloud patterns here over the eastern seaboard as well as the Gulf. And here is water vapor. That shows all the water vapor. You can see that heavy moisture from the Pacific there moving into Washington, and a separate band of moisture there moving into Oregon and Washington. Clear skies are coming to the to the mid-Atlantic states there. You can see this high pressure zone slowly making its move up to the northeast. Some dry, massive air there dominated by nitrogen. Here's your recap to close things out. That is U.S. Doppler radar. That is 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation. That is water vapor. And that is where we'll have to close things out. Thanks for tuning in once again. And congratulations on realizing the channel exists despite the best efforts by certain criminal organizations who mislead their investors in a banana republic where there is absolutely no law and order, because, well, criminal enterprises are incentivized to continue to do crime. So in any case, thanks for tuning in, folks. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network. Least busted name of news. May that solar wind be at your back, and may that fraud be absent from your online activities. Facts stated in this video, not necessarily facts approved by big tech criminal organizations. Opinions expressed in this video, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.